Hi there, and thank you for joining me today. What I want to share isn't just a tale of betrayal or heartbreak, but a story about the slow, quiet unraveling of a marriage built more on survival than on love. My name is Michael, and this is how I came to the moment that changed everything. The moment my wife uttered words that shattered whatever fragile illusion I had been desperately clinging to. It wasn't just painful. It was a final, undeniable confirmation of every suspicion I had buried deep inside, forced myself to ignore for years. After hearing those words, there was no more pretending, no chance to mend what had never truly been whole. To understand that moment, I need to take you back to where it all began. I met Brittany during one of the darkest chapters of my life. We were both struggling in different ways, but shared a certain emptiness, a quiet void we carried like a second skin. That mutual silence somehow pulled us together. At the time, I had just lost my father, the only real family I had left. My mother had passed away when I was 7, and from that moment on, my dad had been my anchor. He worked tirelessly to give me a decent life, never missing a single parent-teacher meeting, patiently helping me with math homework even when it confused him. Though he was a man of few words, his presence made me feel safe in a world that had already taken so much from me. I dreamed of a day when I'd be stable enough to repay him, take him on vacations, buy him a house he'd always wanted, maybe give him the rest of the life he'd sacrificed for me. But life is a cruel way of rewriting even the most carefully laid plans. The cancer he had fought and beaten years ago returned, meaner, faster. Within months, he was gone. I didn't just lose a parent. I lost my anchor. Grief swallowed me whole, a dense fog that numbed everything. Friends drifted away. I had no siblings, no aunts or uncles to lean on. I was utterly alone, drowning slowly in plain sight. That's when Brittany entered my life. She had recently moved into the neighborhood, just a few houses down from where my father lived. We met by chance, and when I realized I couldn't always be there for my dad during his final weeks because of work, I asked her if she could check in on him from time to time. It was a big ask, especially from someone I barely knew, but she agreed without hesitation. She was calm and capable, not overly emotional, but dependable. She brought groceries, helped with medications, and sat with him when I couldn't. My father grew fond of her, and over time, so did I. After the funeral, the silence of my life became deafening. Brittany was one of the few constants in that storm. She'd seen the hardest parts, the tears, the exhaustion, the version of me that didn't have answers or plans. And I think in that shared space of grief and uncertainty, something began to form, not passion, exactly, but familiarity. Looking back, I realized I mistook comfort for connection. There wasn't a spark, at least not the kind I felt before, but back then, I told myself sparks were childish. What mattered was stability, loyalty, someone who wouldn't leave when things got hard. So when one quiet evening, completely out of the blue, she suggested we get married, I didn't hesitate as much as I should have. She simply looked at me and said, "Maybe we should just get married." No ring, no grand speech, just a statement. I remember blinking in surprise, not out of fear, but more like, asterisk, huh? Okay, maybe this is it. Asterisk, I convinced myself this was what adult love looked like. Grown-up love didn't come with fireworks. It came with reliability. Right. We didn't have a big wedding. Neither of us had family to invite, and honestly, I didn't have the energy to fake excitement. We kept it small and quiet, and in that quiet, I kept pushing aside the subtle alarms ringing faintly in the back of my mind. From the beginning, Brittany had a wall around her. She wasn't emotionally expressive. I'd open up, talk about my fears, my grief, my hopes, and she'd just sit there, eyes glazed, offering no real reaction. At first, I chalked it up to personality. Maybe she was private. Maybe she'd open up later. But she never really did. I don't remember a single time she said, "I love you," without me saying it first. And even then, it sounded more like an obligation than affection. Still, I convinced myself her actions spoke louder. She had been there for me during the worst chapter of my life. That had to count for something, right? But the truth was, things never got better. If anything, they slowly declined. The emotional distance between us grew into a canyon I couldn't cross. She grew colder, more withdrawn. There were no fights, just silence, and silence, I learned, can be louder than shouting. Then came the day that confirmed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon. One of my meetings at work got canceled, so I headed home early. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed a familiar car parked outside. Her friends. I thought nothing of it. Brittany often caught up with her over wine. I walked inside, hearing laughter coming from the back porch. I didn't want to interrupt, just say a quick hello and head upstairs. But as I approached the door, something about Brittany's voice made me stop, just short of opening it. She was mid-sentence, laughing a little too freely. Then she said it. I didn't marry Michael because I loved him, she said. I married him because I was terrified of being alone. He's kind, boring, but kind, and I needed someone safe. Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Her friend, clearly startled, asked, "You don't love him?" Brittany didn't hesitate. No, I never did. I just didn't have the energy to keep dating. I thought maybe love would grow. It didn't. That moment shattered me. Suddenly, every cold stare, every indifferent reply, every missed opportunity for connection made sense. It all added up. I turned away numb, walked quietly upstairs, and locked myself in my home office. For the first time ever, that door needed a lock. That night, I needed something, a barrier between me and the brutal truth I'd just heard. Later, Brittany came looking for me. She must have seen my car in the driveway. She knocked gently. "Michael," she called. I didn't respond. She knocked again, more firmly. Then my phone rang, her name on the screen. I answered and simply said, "Please don't disturb me." She didn't call again. By sunrise, I knew exactly what I had to do. No anger, no shouting, just clarity. We had no children, no shared debts, nothing that truly bound us except a piece of paper and my silence. I waited until she left for work. Then I packed, took only what was mine, locked the front door behind me, and walked away without saying goodbye. I checked into a hotel, sent an email to my boss explaining I needed the day, then reached out to a divorce attorney. It was over, quietly, completely, without a fight.